The courtroom went silent when Officer Travis Mallory snapped cold handcuffs around the wrists of an elderly black woman and told her she was done pretending to matter. She didn't shout. She didn't fight. She only looked at the judge's bench, then at the folded photograph in her pocket. Why would a woman her age walk into court alone, knowing the officers already wanted her gone? Why did the lieutenant turn pale when he heard her full name? And why did the mayor's aide rush through the doors just seconds too late? By the time those cuffs came off, everyone in that room would understand who had really been on trial. The second cuff clicked shut. Evelyn Brooks felt the metal settle against her wrist, cold enough to make her fingers close before she told them not to. Rain tapped the windows. Officer Travis Mallory stood close enough that his sleeve brushed her gray coat. "Ma'am, I told you once, you don't pass notes in my courtroom." "It is not your courtroom," Evelyn said. Shoes moved under benches. A pen stopped scratching. Judge Rebecca Vale lifted her eyes over her glasses. Mallory's jaw tightened. "You want to try that again?" Evelyn pressed 2 fingers to her coat pocket. The folded photograph inside made a small, dry crackle. "Please don't crush what's in there," she said. At the defense table, Daniel Price rose halfway from his chair. "Daniel," Evelyn said. "Sit." He obeyed, but the chair scraped hard against the floor. Lieutenant Carl Hensley stood near the aisle, silver hair combed flat, face arranged into official patience. "Judge," Hensley said, "Officer Mallory is following protocol." Judge Vale looked from the cuffs to Evelyn's face. "Mrs. Brooks, did you refuse an order to leave?" "I asked for the legal basis," Evelyn said. "I was not given one." Mallory laughed once. She interfered with the proceeding. "With a note?" the judge asked. "With contact toward the defense." "The note is on the floor," Evelyn said. No one moved. It lay beside the front bench, half open where Mallory had crumpled it. A young clerk glanced down, then away. "Remove the cuffs until I understand what happened," Judge Vale said. Hensley spoke first. "Your Honor, once a person is detained, we clear the area and document the incident." "It protects the court," Evelyn said softly. Mallory leaned closer. "You done?" A shaving cut marked his chin, and a coffee stain darkened one glove. He expected anger. She gave him none. "Not yet," she said. Reporter Alan Pierce lowered his phone. Clerk Marta Ruiz stood by the evidence cart, lips parted around a word she chose not to speak. Daniel looked at the cuffs. "Grandma, tell them." Evelyn's thumb found the photograph through the fabric. Marcus had been smiling in it, one arm around Daniel as a toddler. She remembered his whisper. "One day, Ma, this city will listen before it judges." She did not take it out. "Not here," she said. Mallory placed a hand at her elbow. The chain tugged, and the photograph crackled again. Judge Vale struck the bench. "Lieutenant Hensley, I have not authorized removal." Hensley's eyes flicked toward the doors. "Then I'm asking the court to recess while we secure this." Samuel Ortiz stood. "Your Honor, if the note concerns evidence—" "Counselor," Hensley cut in, "do not escalate." The air smelled of wet wool, polish, and burnt coffee. "Bring her to the holding room," Judge Vale said. "Do not process her." Mallory smiled. "Yes, Your Honor." As he guided Evelyn toward the side door, people leaned back. Near the aisle, the young clerk picked up the note and hid it under his clipboard before Hensley turned. Evelyn saw it. At the doorway, Mallory lowered his voice. "You should have stayed quiet." Through the narrow window, footsteps were approaching fast. "I did," Evelyn said. "That's why you heard yourself so clearly." At 6:18 that morning, The tea kettle began to whistle before Evelyn Brooks had buttoned her coat. She stood in the kitchen, one hand on the stove knob, the other on a leather folder worn smooth at the corners. The room smelled of mint tea, rain through the cracked window, and lemon soap. Outside, tires hissed on the wet road. "Grandma!" Daniel Price appeared in the doorway, wearing the navy suit she had pressed for him. His tie hung loose. "You missed the loop," Evelyn said. His fingers tried twice to feed the silk through. "I couldn't sleep." "That is not an excuse for looking surrendered." He almost smiled. "You always start kind. I start accurate." She fixed the knot, then flattened it with 2 fingers. "You think they'll listen today?" Evelyn lifted the kettle from the burner. "The truth sounds different when it has a record behind it. They said the body cam file was unavailable. They said many things." On the table lay a folded photograph of Marcus Brooks, her son, standing beside Daniel when Daniel was small enough to grip his belt. Marcus wore a police academy sweatshirt. His grin faded where Evelyn's thumb had touched the paper. Daniel picked it up. He'd hate this. He would hate what happened, Evelyn said. He would not hate the fight. A dark car passed slowly outside. Headlights dragged 2 pale bars across the cabinets, then moved on. Evelyn poured tea into 2 cups. She placed Daniel's with the handle turned toward his right hand, as she had when he was 8 and shaking before a spelling bee. "Grandma," he said, "if this gets worse, don't stand up in there for me." She slid the leather folder into her canvas tote. Beneath the court papers rested a sealed cream envelope with the city crest and her name printed under appointment confirmation. She covered it with a grocery receipt. "I am not going for you alone." "That sounds like a yes." "It sounds like breakfast." "There's no breakfast." She opened the refrigerator, removed a boiled egg, and set it on a napkin. "There is now." Daniel stared at it. A phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. Evelyn watched it vibrate until it stopped. A text arrived. "Court starts at 9. Don't create a scene." Daniel saw only the first line. "Who is that?" "No one with courage enough to sign." His face changed. "This is because of me." Evelyn slipped the phone into her pocket. "This is because someone learned a badge can become a wall if no one measures its height." He opened his mouth, but no words came. In the hallway mirror, Evelyn adjusted her gray wool hat. She wore no medals, no badge, no pin, only a simple coat and black shoes polished dull from age. Her left knee clicked when she bent to lift the tote. Daniel reached for it. "I've got it," she said. "It's heavy." So is silence. He let go. At 7:02, they stepped onto the porch. The spring air sharpened every breath. Across the street, Mrs. Hanley paused behind her curtains, then let them fall closed. Daniel whispered, "What if they already decided?" Evelyn locked the door once, tested the knob twice, and touched the pocket where Marcus's photograph rested. The courthouse bus turned the corner, its brakes sighing. "Then we make them say it, where everyone can hear." The bus doors folded open at 7:41 a.m., breathing damp rubber into the rain. Evelyn stepped down first. Her shoe touched a puddle, and cold water climbed the seam near her ankle. Daniel followed, one hand guarding the knot of his tie. Across the street, Briar Glen County Courthouse rose behind wet magnolia trees. Lawyers hurried under black umbrellas. Eyes passed over Evelyn's gray hat, canvas tote, and careful walk. "You want me to get a ride back after?" Daniel asked. "We are not planning our exit before we enter." At security, a deputy waved a suited man through, then pointed at Evelyn's tote. "Ma'am, belt. Move it along." "I am moving at the speed of my knee." Someone behind her snorted. Daniel turned, but Evelyn touched his sleeve. "Leave it." The scanner hummed. A clerk opened the tote and paused at the folder. "What's this?" "Court papers." "You filing something?" "I am carrying them." He saw Daniel's case number and pushed it back. The appointment envelope stayed hidden beneath a grocery receipt. "Family sits left side, third row back." Daniel's jaw tightened. Inside, the courthouse smelled of floor wax, damp wool, and bitter coffee. At the elevator, a woman in a beige raincoat stepped in before them. Evelyn reached the closing doors. "Hold, please," Daniel called. The woman looked at Evelyn's cane. Her hand stayed still. The doors shut. "I saw it," Evelyn said before Daniel spoke, "and I see the stairs." They climbed slowly. On the landing, rain blurred Evelyn's reflection. A man with a press badge came down, a recorder clipped to his bag. "Your Price, right? The traffic stop case?" Evelyn moved between them. "He's on his way to court." "Alan Pierce, Briar Glen Ledger. Just looking for a comment." "Then look after the hearing." He lowered the recorder. On the second floor, Officer Travis Mallory stood near courtroom 2B. "Well?" Mallory said. "Made it on time." "Yes, sir," Daniel answered. Mallory's eyes moved to Evelyn. "You with him?" "With myself." His smile thinned. "Family waits in the gallery. No talking to the defense once we start." "The defense has not started." "It starts when I say the room is controlled." A few people on the bench went quiet. Marta Ruiz slowed when she saw Evelyn's folder, then kept walking. Mallory pointed at the door. "Third row. Don't make me repeat it." Daniel whispered, "Grandma." Evelyn brushed rain from her sleeve. "You repeated it for yourself, officer." Lieutenant Carl Hensley appeared at the far end, coffee cup in hand. His gaze landed on Evelyn, then returned. "Problem?" Hensley asked. "No problem," Mallory said. "Setting expectations." Hensley looked at Daniel's name, then at Evelyn's face. Something tightened around his mouth. "Let's keep the morning clean," he said. Evelyn heard the warning and saw his eyes dip toward her tote. When courtroom 2B opened, Daniel went to the defense table. Evelyn sat third row left, the wood cold through her coat. On the evidence cart, a printed list lay crooked. She leaned forward. Patrol Vehicle 14. Written report. Citation copy. Officer statement. No camera file. Evelyn reached for her pen, and beneath the grocery receipt, the sealed envelope shifted against her fingertips. "Daniel," Evelyn said his name softly. He had just reached the table when Officer Mallory stepped into the aisle. "No conversations," Mallory said. "I asked my grandmother if she found her seat." "You can ask your attorney now." Samuel Ortiz looked up. "Officer, the hearing has not been called. The room is under court control." Evelyn folded her umbrella twice. Each click carried. "Then control should not fear a seat number." Mallory pointed. "Third row." "I am in the third row." "Then stay there." Daniel's hand whitened around the chair. Evelyn lowered her eyes to the evidence cart. The printed list was crooked, one corner lifting in the draft. Patrol Vehicle 14. Written report. Citation copy. Officer statement. No dash camera. She opened her leather folder. The paper smelled of ink. In the margin she wrote, "Missing recording. Wrong vehicle number." Lieutenant Hensley entered at 8:56. He carried a paper cup and a smile built for rooms with witnesses. One cuff button was loose. "Morning, counselor," he said. "Let's keep this simple." "Simple depends on complete evidence," Ortiz replied. Hensley's eyes shifted to Evelyn's notebook. "Mrs. Brooks, isn't it?" "Yes," Evelyn said. "Long morning for family." longer for truth when it waits outside the door. His cup stopped below his chin. Then he smiled at Mallory. Make sure the gallery understands boundaries. Judge Vale entered at 9 exactly. Benches creaked as everyone rose. Evelyn stood with one hand pressed to her knee. Be seated, the judge said. Prosecutor Elaine Mercer described Daniel as the driver who ignored repeated lawful instructions during a routine stop. Evelyn's pen moved once. Routine. Ortiz rose. Your Honor, the exhibit list references Patrol Vehicle 14, but the citation identifies Vehicle 41. Mercer frowned. A clerical inversion. Then the recording should clarify it. There is no recording available. Shoes shifted under the benches. No recording because it was not made, Judge Vale asked, or because it has not been produced. Mercer hesitated. Unavailable is the term in the file. Evelyn tore a small sheet from her legal pad. Vehicle 41 logged to Officer B. Raines. Ask dispatch for upload journal. She folded it once. Marta Ruiz stood near the evidence cart. Evelyn waited until Mallory looked toward the bench, then extended the note toward the aisle. Marta saw it. So did Assistant Clerk Jonah Reed, 31, thin, with nervous hands and a tiny silver tie clip. Mallory stepped sideways. What is that? A note for counsel. You don't pass notes. Then hand it to him yourself. Mallory unfolded it with 2 fingers and read only the first line. This is interference. Ortiz moved from the table. May I see it? No. Judge Vale leaned forward. Officer Mallory. Hensley spoke without raising his voice. Your Honor, we have a family member directing legal strategy from the gallery. Evelyn looked at him. Only because the file refuses to direct itself. Daniel whispered, Grandma, please. Mallory crushed the note in his fist. Jonah Reed stared at the paper as if it had landed on his own shoes. Judge Vale's gavel hovered, but before it fell, Hensley said, I recommend a recess. Judge Vale set the gavel down instead of striking it. No recess yet, she said. Ms. Mercer, continue. Prosecutor Elaine Mercer lifted the first report. Mr. Price was stopped at 8:17 p.m. on March 12th for a broken tail light. Officer Mallory told him to remain in the vehicle. Mr. Price opened the door and refused commands. Daniel held still. Only his thumb moved, rubbing his suit pants. Evelyn wrote the time. 8:17 p.m. The pen stopped, leaving a dark dot. Did she say March 12th? Ortiz whispered. Daniel nodded. Evelyn looked at the exhibit list. Patrol Vehicle 14, citation copy, officer statement. The citation in Ortiz's folder had been written at 8:42 p.m. Mallory stood near the aisle, arms folded. Officer Mallory attempted to de-escalate, Mercer said. Mr. Price became argumentative. There was a lunch bag, Daniel said. Ortiz touched his sleeve. Not yet. Judge Vale looked over. Mr. Price, you will have your chance. A ceiling vent rattled. Damp coats steamed in the room, mixing with polish and sour coffee. Mercer turned another page. The department has no internal finding against the officer involved. Ortiz stood. Because the complaint was never answered. Lieutenant Hensley smiled. Counselor, that complaint was reviewed. By whom? The appropriate chain. Meaning you. The smile stayed, but his eyes did not. Judge Vale lifted a hand. We are not trying the department today. No, Evelyn said. Mallory heard her. Ma'am. She looked up. I said no. Marta Ruiz held her clipboard. Jonah Reed stared at the crumpled note. Mercer called Officer Mallory. He walked to the stand with the pace of a man who enjoyed being watched. Officer, Mercer said, did Mr. Price comply? No, ma'am. He questioned every instruction. Did you feel the situation could become unsafe? Yes. Evelyn's pen stopped. Feel. Ortiz rose. Which patrol vehicle were you assigned that night? 14. Ortiz lifted the citation. This document identifies Vehicle 41. Typo. Your report says the stop began at 8:17. The citation says 8:42. Paperwork gets entered after. 25 minutes after? That's not unusual. Evelyn saw Hensley's paper cup bend. Ortiz turned a page. Where is the recording? Mallory looked toward Hensley before answering. System malfunction. Written where? In the supplemental log. Not provided to defense. Mercer stood. Your Honor, counsel is implying bad faith. Ortiz held up the exhibit list. I am asking for the foundation they refuse to produce. Evelyn wrote one line. Ask for dispatch upload journal. Mallory's eyes followed the pen. She's writing again. Judge Vale sighed. Mrs. Brooks may take notes. She's coaching him. I have not spoken, Evelyn said. Your face has. Someone near the back laughed and coughed it away. Evelyn closed both hands over the notebook. Daniel looked at her from the defense table, fingers trembling against the chair edge. Mallory stepped down. His boot pushed the note farther under the bench. Jonah bent as if retrieving a dropped paper. His hand closed around Evelyn's note instead. Hensley noticed. Mr. Reed, he said, bring that here. Jonah froze with the paper hidden in his palm. Mr. Reed, Lieutenant Hensley said again. Jonah stayed bent beside the front bench, one knee near the polished floor. The crumpled paper was tucked against his palm. For 1 second, only sound in courtroom 2B was the ceiling vent ticking. I dropped my docket sheet, Jonah said. Hensley held out his hand. Bring it here. Judge Vale turned. Lieutenant, return to your seat. Your Honor, the gallery is passing unauthorized material. The court will determine that. Mallory moved before the judge finished. His hand closed around Jonah's wrist, firm enough to make the clerk's fingers open. The note fell near his shoe. Pick it up, Mallory said. Jonah's ears reddened. Officer, pick it up. Evelyn rose slowly. Wood pressed against the backs of her knees. The note was mine. It contains an evidence question. It contains interference. Then read all of it aloud. A low breath moved through the benches. Mallory snatched the note. Missing recording, he read. Wrong vehicle number. His eyes flicked toward Hensley. That's enough. There is another line, Evelyn said. Judge Vale leaned forward. Read it. Mallory stared at the paper. Vehicle 41 logged to Officer B. Raines. Ask dispatch for upload journal. Ortiz stepped out. Your Honor, I request a continuance to obtain that journal. Mercer's folder snapped shut. A family member cannot conduct discovery from the gallery. A family member noticed what the file did not explain, Ortiz said. Hensley set his coffee down. The cup made a wet sound. Or she is inventing confusion to protect her grandson. Daniel stood. Don't talk about her like that. Sit down, Mallory barked. Evelyn did not turn. Daniel. His shoulders locked, then lowered. Judge Vale rubbed her forehead. Mrs. Brooks, how do you know that vehicle assignment? The sealed envelope in Evelyn's tote pressed against the folder. Not yet. I know how departments log evidence, she said. That is not an answer. It is the answer I can give without making this hearing about me. Mallory laughed. Too late? Marta crossed to the evidence cart. Your Honor, the clerk's office may have a backup entry. Hensley turned sharply. Ms. Ruiz, stay within your duties. Marta's fingers tightened around her clipboard. I am. Rain hit the high windows. Someone shifted in the back row, and the bench groaned. Judge Vale looked at Mallory. "Hand the note to Mr. Ortiz." Mallory did not move. "Officer." He placed the paper on the defense table with 2 fingers, as if it were dirty. Ortiz read it. Daniel leaned toward him, but his eyes stayed on Evelyn. "Grandma," he whispered. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Hensley stepped into the aisle. "Your Honor, this has become disruptive. I recommend removing Mrs. Brooks until counsel can proceed properly." Judge Vale hesitated. That pause changed the room. He turned to Evelyn. "Ma'am, gather your things." "No," Ortiz said. "She has provided relevant information. She has interrupted repeatedly." Evelyn folded her notebook closed. The ink dot from earlier had spread into a tiny black bloom. "I will remain seated," she said. Mallory's hand moved to the cuffs on his belt. The metal clicked once before anyone spoke. The first cuff came out with a small silver flash. Evelyn saw it before Daniel did. Mallory held the chain in his left hand, thumb hooked through steel, as if the room had given him permission. "Officer Mallory," Judge Vale said, "I have not ordered an arrest." "No arrest, Your Honor. Temporary detention for disruption." "That is not a magic phrase," Ortiz said. Hensley stepped into the aisle. "Court security has discretion when a proceeding becomes unstable." Evelyn stood with her notebook against her chest. Cold air slid along her neck. "Then name the instability." Mallory smiled. "You." Daniel shoved back his chair. "Daniel," Evelyn said. He stopped, half risen. "They can't do this." "They can," she said. "The question is whether they should." Mallory reached for her wrist. Evelyn pressed the folded photograph deeper into her coat pocket. Marcus's paper face crackled beneath the wool. "Please don't crush what's in there." Mallory looked at the pocket. "Turn around." "No." The word did not fill the room, but it changed it. Judge Vale leaned forward. "Mrs. Brooks, I will not turn my back to my grandson while a false record remains on your table." A woman in the second row covered her mouth. Mallory took Evelyn's right wrist. His glove was damp. The metal touched her skin, and her fingers closed before she let them open. Click. Daniel moved 1 step. Ortiz caught his sleeve. "Do not give them another line for the report," Ortiz whispered. Mallory brought Evelyn's left hand behind her. Her shoulder tightened. The chain pulled short. Click. The second cuff settled harder. For a breath, no one spoke. The judge's clock ticked above the flag. Marta looked down at the evidence cart. Jonah stared at the note, then at Hensley, trying to decide which mistake was safer to obey. Hensley cleared his throat. "Remove her to holding room C. Do not process until the court recesses." Judge Vale struck the bench once. "Lieutenant, I said I have not authorized removal." "With respect, Your Honor. Security." "With respect," Evelyn said, "usually comes before the part where someone ignores you." Mallory leaned close enough for her to smell coffee. "You really don't know when to stop." Evelyn turned her head a few inches. "I stopped years ago. That is why I came back." Hensley's face changed, a small tightening near the eyes. Mallory guided her toward the side door. Benches shifted backward, as if her silence were contagious. Daniel's chair trembled under his hand. "Grandma," he said. She looked at him. His tie was crooked. The knot she had fixed at breakfast pulled loose. "Sit tall," she said. His mouth shook once. Then he sat. At the aisle, Evelyn's shoe brushed an old exhibit sticker. She almost bent for it, but the cuffs stopped her. Jonah moved instead. He picked up the sticker and the corner of a yellow copy half hidden beneath the cart. "Leave that," Hensley snapped. Jonah froze. Judge Vale's eyes followed the paper. "What is that?" Mallory opened the side door. A sour draft came from the hallway, smelling of bleach. Evelyn stepped through, the chain cold between her wrists. Behind her, Jonah's voice broke. "Your Honor," he said, "this copy says Vehicle 41 uploaded video at 8:23 p.m. The hallway outside courtroom 2B swallowed Evelyn in bleach and stale air. Behind the door, Jonah's broken sentence still seemed to hang in the wood. Vehicle 41 uploaded video at 8:23 p.m. Mallory heard it too. His fingers tightened at her elbow, and the cuffs pulled her shoulders back. "Keep walking," he said. "I am." Holding room C was 10 steps away and felt farther. A buzzing light trembled over a plastic chair, a metal table, and a wall clock with no second hand. The room was cold for spring. Evelyn sat because Mallory pushed the chair with his foot. Lieutenant Hensley entered after him. He shut the door carefully. "Mrs. Brooks," he said, "we can make this simple." People say that when they have already made it complicated. Mallory dropped a form on the table. "Statement of disruptive conduct. Sign it, and maybe the judge lets you back in after recess." Evelyn looked at the blank line for her name. The cuffs kept her hands behind her, forcing her shoulders into the chair's hard edge. "You want me to sign with my teeth?" Mallory blinked. Hensley gave him a look. "Remove one hand." Mallory unlocked the left cuff and fastened it to a ring under the table. Metal scraped metal. Evelyn flexed her fingers slowly. In her pocket, Marcus's photograph crackled when she shifted. Hensley sat across from her. "Your grandson's case is not helped by theatrics." "Then stop performing." His mouth thinned. "You don't know this department anymore." Evelyn's eyes lifted. "Any more?" For the first time, Hensley looked away. Mallory tapped the form. "Write that you refused instructions, attempted to influence the defense, and created a disturbance. That would be fiction. It would be clean. Clean is not the same as true." Outside, footsteps hurried past. A woman said, "Where is Judge Vale?" Another voice answered, "Get the archive log." Hensley heard it. His hand moved to his phone. Evelyn said, "If you call records before the court does, make sure you do it on a recorded line." Mallory leaned in. "You threatening him?" "No, I'm offering him a chance to remember policy." The light buzzed again. Hensley stood. "Officer Mallory, step outside." "I can handle—" Outside. Mallory opened the door. For 1 second, Evelyn saw Jonah near the evidence cart, pale and clutching a folder. Marta beside him, with her lips set tight. Then the door closed. Hensley stayed by it. "What do you want?" Evelyn used her free hand to smooth the photograph in her pocket. The edge had bent. "I wanted a court to hear a young man before it decided what kind of man he was." "And now?" "Now I want to know why you recognized my name." Rain tapped somewhere beyond the wall vents. Hensley adjusted his loose cuff button and failed to fasten it. "Brooks is not rare." "No," Evelyn said, "but fear has a very specific face." His phone vibrated. He glanced down and turned the screen away. The door opened before he could speak. Mallory was back, jaw tight. "Judge wants her returned," he said, "and there's some woman from the mayor's office asking for Evelyn Brooks." Hensley's color drained so quickly that even Mallory noticed. Evelyn placed her palm flat over the unsigned form. "Then unhook me," she said. "Carefully this time." The archive room light came on with a cough. Jonah Reed stood in the doorway, one hand on the switch, the other around the yellow copy he had pulled from beneath the evidence cart. Dust lifted from boxes along the wall. The room smelled of paper, plastic, and old rain. Marta Ruiz slipped in behind him and shut the door without letting it click. "Show me again," she said. Jonah flattened the copy. Vehicle 41 uploaded video at 8:23 p.m. That's what this says. Upload to where? Temporary court evidence server. Then it should be in the case folder. But it isn't. Marta cleaned her glasses with her cardigan. Then either the transfer failed or someone stopped it. Jonah looked toward the door. We should call Judge Vale. We should have called 5 minutes ago. He swallowed. Lieutenant Hensley told me last month not to dig when files came from internal review. He told you that? He said small towns run on trust. Small towns run on paper, Marta said. Trust is what people ask for when the paper looks bad. A computer tower hummed under the counter. Its green indicator blinked. Jonah woke the monitor. The screen turned gray, then blue, then asked for a password. Marta typed. She missed one key and made a tiny sound. The search window opened. Case, price, Daniel. Date, March 12th. Vehicle, 41. Outside, footsteps moved fast down the corridor. A male voice said, "Where's Reed?" Jonah whispered, "If they fire me." If a man goes home with a false record because you feared a reprimand, that follows you longer. The result appeared. One archived upload. File name, BGPD _V4 1 _0312 _2 026 _2 023. Marta reached for the desk phone. "No," Jonah said. "Use the internal line to Chambers." She dialed. "Judge Vale's clerk, please. This is Marta Ruiz from Court Records. Tell the judge we located a reserved evidence file." Jonah clicked the file. A frozen frame appeared. Daniel's car under streetlights, one tail light working, one officer's hand entering the frame. The timestamp glowed white. 8:23 p.m. Marta turned the screen away from the doorway. "Do not play it yet," she said. "Chain of custody." Jonah copied the file path by hand. His pen scratched too loudly. The door handle moved. Marta covered the yellow copy. Lieutenant Hensley stepped in with a soft smile. "There you are." Jonah stood so quickly, his chair hit the wall. Marta kept sitting. "Lieutenant? What are you doing in court records?" "My job. Court is in session. Records remain records while court is in session." Hensley's eyes moved to the monitor. "Close that." "No." The word surprised even Jonah. Hensley leaned over the counter. His cologne cut through the dust. "Ms. Ruiz, I'm trying to prevent a misunderstanding." "Then stop touching clean evidence with dirty urgency." His smile vanished. Alan Pierce appeared in the doorway with his press badge crooked and recorder in hand. "Everything all right?" "No," Jonah said. Jonah picked up the phone. "Judge Vale's chambers? This is Assistant Clerk Jonah Reed. The missing video exists. Lieutenant Hensley is standing here asking us to close it." Hensley reached for the receiver. Marta slid the archive log between them. "Careful," she said. "This room has a camera, too." The side door to courtroom 2B opened as Evelyn stepped into the hall with one wrist still marked by the cuff. Mallory followed, holding the unsigned form. Hensley moved toward the main doors, where a young woman in a dark green coat carried a sealed cream envelope. "Who are you?" Hensley asked. "Claire Whitmore, Mayor's office." Rain shone on her short curls. "Mrs. Brooks?" Evelyn touched the bent edge of Marcus's photograph through her pocket. "Yes." "You were expected in chambers by 9:15. "I was delayed." Mallory gave a dry laugh. "She was detained." Claire turned to him. "By whom?" The laugh left his face. Hensley stepped between them. This is not the place. It became the place when the judge asked for her. Claire lifted the envelope. The red seal caught the hallway light. Mallory looked from the envelope to Evelyn's plain coat. Appointment for what? Evelyn said nothing. The courtroom doors opened. Daniel stopped when he saw Evelyn's wrist. Grandma. Stay with Mr. Ortiz. They put marks on you. They put questions on themselves. The clerk called them back. Inside, no one leaned against the benches. Jonah stood by the evidence cart with Marta beside him. Alan Pierce waited near the rear wall, recorder lowered but running. Judge Vale looked at Evelyn. Were you processed? No, Your Honor. Was a statement requested? Offered. Signed? No. Mallory shifted. His belt creaked. Claire approached the bench. Your Honor, I have a sealed document from the mayor's office. It was scheduled after this hearing, but the mayor requested presentation. Hensley said, This has no bearing on Daniel Price's hearing. Claire did not look at him. It has bearing on who was restrained in this courtroom. The seal broke under Judge Vale's thumb. The sound was small, but Daniel closed his eyes as if he had heard a lock give way. Judge Vale unfolded the page. She read the heading, the signature line, and Evelyn's full name. Mrs. Brooks, she said carefully, is this accurate? Yes. Mallory leaned toward Hensley. What does it say? Hensley's face had gone the color of wet paper. Judge Vale placed the page on the bench. First, Mr. Reed. Jonah swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. You informed Chambers that a missing video exists. Yes. Where is it? Archived temporary storage. Vehicle 41, March 12th. Timestamp 8:23 p.m. Mercer opened her folder, then closed it. That was not in discovery. Marta said, It was uploaded to the court server, then excluded from the active case folder. By whom? The judge asked. Jonah's fingers tightened around his notes. Lieutenant Hensley's credentials. Every face turned. Hensley lifted both hands. Credentials can be shared. Evelyn finally looked at him. Not under your own policy. Mallory whispered, Lieutenant? Hensley ignored him. Your Honor, I request we pause before reputations are damaged. Judge Vale's eyes moved from the broken seal to Evelyn's wrist marks. We already paused, she said. That appears to be the problem. Outside, the rain eased. Light crossed the evidence table and stopped on the cream envelope. Judge Vale lifted the document again. Mrs. Evelyn Brooks, she said, please remain standing. Evelyn stood beside the defense table because Judge Vale had asked her to. The courtroom had rearranged itself without anyone changing seats. Mallory no longer filled the aisle. Hensley no longer smiled. Rain softened against the windows, leaving sounds. An umbrella dripping, the ceiling light buzzing, Daniel breathing. Judge Vale held the cream document with both hands. Mrs. Evelyn Brooks, this states that you were appointed Chief of Police for Briar Glen, effective this morning, pending the public oath scheduled after this hearing. A murmur lifted and died. Mallory stared at Evelyn's gray coat. No. Evelyn turned toward him. That is not a legal objection. Officer Mallory, the judge said, you will not speak unless addressed. His mouth stayed open, then closed. Claire Whitmore stepped back. The mayor is downstairs. He expected Mrs. Brooks in chambers at 9:15. At 9:15, Judge Vale said. She was in holding room C. Mallory crushed the unsigned form. Judge Vale faced Evelyn. Why did you not identify yourself earlier? Evelyn placed her folder on the table. The cuff marks on her wrist showed pale rings. Because Daniel Price's case should not depend on who his grandmother is. Daniel lowered his head. And because if this room could not hear an old woman without a title, the city needed to know that before I accepted one. Hensley cleared his throat. That sounds like an ambush. Evelyn opened the folder. An ambush hides facts. I asked for a missing recording, a correct vehicle number, and a basis for detention. Those are not traps. Those are doors. Ortiz stood. The defense moves to admit the archive log and review the video. Mercer remained seated. The state needs time to verify chain of custody. Marta Ruiz raised her hand. I can verify the court side. Come forward. Marta placed the archive log on the bench. The file was uploaded March 12th at 8:23 p.m. It was removed from the active folder 2 days later using Hensley's credentials. Hensley's chair scraped. I did not remove anything. Jonah spoke from beside the evidence cart. The login came from internal review. You're guessing. I printed the terminal location. Judge Vale took the sheet. Lieutenant Hensley, sit down. He sat. Judge Vale looked to Mallory. Officer, surrender the statement form. Mallory laid the paper on the bench. His glove brushed the red seal. He pulled back as if it had burned. Your Honor, I acted on a security concern. Evelyn's fingers rested on Marcus's photograph inside her pocket. You acted on certainty. Mallory blinked. Play the video, Judge Vale said. Marta connected the archive laptop. For a moment, the screen showed only blue. Then Daniel's car appeared beneath a street lamp, rain flickering across the windshield. His tail light glowed red, dimmed by water, but working. Daniel covered his mouth. On the video, Mallory's voice came through the speakers. Step out. Daniel answered. May I ask why? The room listened to what the report had buried. Evelyn looked at Hensley, whose loose cuff button finally slipped free and struck the floor with a tiny click. Judge Vale paused the video. Mrs. Brooks, she said quietly, the court owes you an answer. Judge Vale did not read the appointment aloud a second time. She turned the paper so the city seal faced the courtroom and placed it beside the cuffs on the evidence table. Cream paper, black ink, dull steel. Evelyn felt the room deciding which object had been real first. Mayor Thomas Whitmore entered through the rear doors. Your Honor, he said, I apologize. The interruption began earlier, Judge Vale answered. Whitmore saw Evelyn's wrists. His voice lowered. Chief Brooks. The words crossed the room slowly. Daniel turned toward her. Chief? Not yet sworn, Evelyn said. The mayor stepped closer. Then we do it now, if the court permits. Hensley stood. Mayor, this is irregular. Whitmore looked at him. So was finding my incoming chief handcuffed in holding room C. Mallory shifted. Sir, I didn't know who she was. Evelyn's eyes moved to him. That was never the problem. No one helped him answer. Judge Vale set the cuffs beside Marcus's photograph. Evelyn smoothed the bent corner with her thumb. Marcus smiled from a younger year, one arm around Daniel. Daniel stared at it. You carried Dad through all this? I carry him everywhere, Evelyn said. The clerk brought a small Bible. Evelyn looked at it, then at the appointment. I will affirm, she said. Judge Vale nodded. Raise your right hand. Evelyn raised the hand Mallory had cuffed. The pale ring at her wrist caught the light. The oath was short. It sounded like a room forced at last to use the correct name. When it ended, the mayor said, Congratulations, Chief Brooks. Evelyn lowered her hand. Thank you. Now return to Mr. Price's case. Mercer stood. The state moves to dismiss the charge without prejudice pending review. Ortiz rose before she finished. With prejudice, Your Honor. The video contradicts the sworn report. Judge Vale looked at the frozen screen. Daniel's car sat under rain, one tail light working. With prejudice, the judge said. The charge is dismissed. Daniel bent forward, both hands on the table. He did not cheer. He breathed like someone who had been underwater too long. Mallory whispered, "Lieutenant, say something." Hensley did not look at him. Judge Vale faced Mallory. "Officer Mallory, you are relieved of courtroom duty pending review." "Your Honor." Now. Captain Denise Ward, 46, close-cropped hair, stepped from the back row. "Officer," she said, "place your badge on the table." Mallory looked at Hensley. Hensley's eyes were fixed on the floor, where his loose cuff button lay. The badge made a flat sound beside the handcuffs. Evelyn picked up Marcus's photograph, not the badge. Daniel came to her slowly. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because if I told you, you would have waited for power to save you." His mouth trembled. "Did it?" She touched his crooked tie. "No, the record did." People finally touching the record did. Alan Pierce lowered his recorder. Marta wiped her glasses. Jonah stood with both hands empty now. Judge Vale's voice softened. "Chief Brooks, the court will cooperate with any lawful inquiry." Evelyn looked at Marta, Jonah, Daniel, then at the cuffs. "Good," she said. "Start by preserving every complaint connected to Lieutenant Hensley's review desk." By noon, the rain had stopped, but the records room still smelled damp. Boxes lined the wall beneath a humming fluorescent light. Some had case numbers. Others had names in fading marker. Evelyn stood at the end of the table with Marcus's photograph tucked inside her coat. Captain Denise Ward set 3 binders down. These came from Lieutenant Hensley's review desk. "How many more?" Evelyn asked. "If the clerk is telling the truth, 2 cabinets. If he is not, 4. Daniel stood near the door, free now, but not relaxed. Alan Pierce waited outside because Evelyn had told him the first hour belonged to records. Marta Ruiz carried in a gray evidence box. "This one has Daniel's complaint." Jonah followed with a laptop. "And logs." Hensley sat at the far side with the city attorney beside him. His tie was loose. Mallory was not there. His badge and keys were sealed in a brown envelope. Evelyn opened the first binder. Names appeared one after another. Drivers, parents, shop owners, night workers. Many complaints ended with the same phrase, reviewed and closed. She touched the line. "Who wrote that?" Hensley folded his hands. "Standard language." "That was not the question." "I know my desk handled minor complaints." Ward opened another file. "This one has no interview notes." "Then it was screened out." "By whom?" "Staff." Jonah turned the laptop. "The login is his." "My credentials were accessible," Hensley said. "To whom?" Evelyn asked. Silence settled, thick as dust. Daniel stepped closer. "How many people got called liars because of this?" No one answered. Marta placed Daniel's complaint beside the video log. The paper had been folded twice, the corners soft. "I filed that next morning," Daniel said. "They told me someone would call." Hensley glanced away. Evelyn kept her voice low. "Did anyone?" "No." Ward removed a red folder. "Chief, 5 complaints, name Mallory." Hensley said, "Unsubstantiated." "Not investigated," Ward answered. A printer pushed out a sheet. Jonah picked it up, then stopped. "What is it?" Evelyn asked. "A deletion request, 2 days after Daniel's stop. Move supplemental video to inactive archive, authorized by CH." Hensley stood so fast the attorney grabbed his wrist. "That is not proof." Evelyn took the warm page, read it, then set it beside the cuffs inventory. "No," she said. It is a beginning. Daniel looked at her. What happens now? She looked at the boxes along the wall. So many people had left pieces of themselves here and walked away unheard. Now we reopen every file that learned to stay closed. Ward nodded. I'll assign a team. Independent. Civilian witnesses present. Written timelines. Preserved video. Every complainant contacted by name. From the hallway came a low murmur. Another cart rolled closer. Evelyn turned to Hensley. You will surrender access to all review systems before you leave. His face tightened. You cannot build a department by humiliating your officers. I am trying to build one where humiliation is not mistaken for order. The attorney whispered to him. Hensley placed an access card on the table. It landed beside Daniel's complaint. For the first time that day, Daniel touched the paper without flinching. At 3:07 p.m., the police department conference room was too warm. Rainwater dried near the doorway. Officers lined the back wall. Community members filled the chairs. Evelyn placed her old badge beside a new brass nameplate. Chief Evelyn Brooks. Captain Denise Ward handed her a folder. Immediate orders? Effective now, Evelyn said. A sergeant shifted. Chief, with respect, we have procedures already. Then today should be easy. Reverend Naomi Ellis sat 2 seats away. 54. Silver twists pinned at her neck. Hands on a worn notebook. People won't believe a memo. I know. They will believe a locked door before an open one. Evelyn slid the first page across the table. Then we remove the lock. Ward read aloud. Traffic stop video, court security video, and evidence logs stay preserved for 180 days. No deletion or transfer without dual authorization. An older officer exhaled. That will bury records. Better paper than people, Evelyn said. The room went still. She turned the page. A civilian review board will receive complaint summaries. Reverend Ellis will serve as temporary chair. Naomi's pen stopped. Temporary? Power should not sit too long in one hand. Mine included. Through the glass, Daniel stood with his dismissed charge folder. Mallory's empty duty chair sat against the wall. A patrolman named Keene spoke from the back. Are we all being punished for Mallory? Evelyn touched Marcus's photo inside her folder. No. You are being measured by rules that should have measured him. Ward continued. Court officers will document the basis for removal before anyone is taken out, unless there is immediate danger. Define immediate, Keene said. Not irritation, Evelyn answered. Not embarrassment. Not a question from the gallery. Marta Ruiz sat at the far end. Jonah Reed, beside her, kept his hands folded. Evelyn nodded to him. Mr. Reed, stand. Jonah rose. This clerk preserved a note others wanted gone. He changed what happened next. Jonah swallowed. I waited too long. Yes, Evelyn said. And then you moved. He sat, slowly. A phone buzzed near Ward's elbow. She passed the screen to Evelyn. 3 messages from residents requesting review. Then 7. Then 12. Evelyn looked at the officers. You will answer with dates, records, and names. Keene lowered his eyes. And if the complaint is false? The record will show that. But a person does not become false because you dislike hearing them. Evelyn lifted the final order. Beginning tomorrow, this department opens a public review desk twice a week. No appointment. No officer screens a complaint alone. No file closes without a written reason. Naomi leaned back. People will come. Good. They'll come angry. They were angry before. Ward capped her pen. Chief, the mayor wants a statement. Evelyn looked at the nameplate, then at the old badge. One reflected light. The other was scratched. Tell the mayor the statement is the door. Keene stepped aside as Naomi opened the conference room door. The hallway was filling. A woman with a cracked phone, an old man with an envelope, Daniel with his folder pressed to his chest. Evelyn turned the plate slightly so it faced them, not her. 3 weeks after the courthouse hearing, the first letter arrived before Evelyn had finished her coffee. It came in a white envelope, addressed to Chief Evelyn Brooks. It smelled of smoke and rain. Lillian Gray wrote that her son's complaint was closed after one phone call no one returned. At the bottom, she had added, "I kept the receipt because I thought paper might remember me." Evelyn read that line twice. Daniel stood in the doorway with folders against his chest. His tie was straight now. Another review request? The first of the morning. There are 9 people downstairs. Then we start with the one who waited longest. Behind her desk, Marcus's photograph hung crooked. Evelyn had corrected it twice that week, and each time the frame settled back by a fraction. Daniel noticed. "Want me to fix the nail?" "No," she said. "Some things remind you the wall is old." By noon, the review desk had 2 folding tables in the lobby. Reverend Naomi Ellis sat with residents while Marta Ruiz checked copies against logs. Jonah Reed carried files from records with both hands. A man in a work jacket held out an envelope. "Do I have to tell it in front of everybody?" Naomi closed her notebook. "No, you get a room." Across the lobby, Captain Ward posted the first weekly report behind glass. Video holds, complaint numbers, dates, reviewers. Officers passed without speaking, but several slowed down. Keene stopped in front of Evelyn. "Chief?" "Yes?" "I handled one wrong." She waited. "A removal from court last year. I wrote disruptive because that was the word everyone used." "Find the person," Evelyn said. He nodded. "I already asked records." The next morning, Mallory appeared for his disciplinary hearing in a dark suit that did not fit. He did not look at Evelyn until Captain Ward read the finding: termination from court duty, decertification referral, and a correction added to Daniel's case file. "I thought order meant not losing control," Mallory said. Evelyn folded her hands. "Order that needs a weaker person to stay quiet is not order." He lowered his eyes. Hensley's decision came 2 days later. Administrative leave became resignation under investigation. His access badge was boxed and sealed with the same brown tape that once held forgotten complaints. The city attorney announced an outside review of every file closed from his desk. Judge Vale visited Evelyn's office on Friday afternoon. She wore no robe, only a blue coat, damp at the hem. "I should have stopped it sooner," the judge said. Evelyn looked at the rain sliding down the blinds. "Yes," the judge swallowed. "I'm sorry." Evelyn touched Marcus's frame and straightened it again. "Then make the next pause shorter." By spring's end, Daniel returned to his job at the transit office. He kept the dismissed charge order in a folder. Alan Pierce published a series about the reopened cases, but Evelyn refused a front-page portrait. She allowed one photograph, the lobby door propped open with a wooden wedge. On the first warm morning of May, Lillian Gray came in, carrying the receipt from her letter. Evelyn met her at the review desk. "Will someone actually read it?" Lillian asked. Evelyn took the paper carefully. "I will start." Behind her, Marcus's photograph watched from the office wall, crooked by a breath, catching the pale light. The door stayed open. If this story reminded you of a moment when someone was ignored, judged too quickly, or forced to prove their dignity in a room that should have protected them, share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes the strongest change begins when one person finally says what others were afraid to name. Share this story with someone who believes dignity and justice still matter, especially for people who have learned to stay quiet just to get through the day. Subscribe for more stories about quiet strength, accountability, and the kind of system change that starts with one voice and reaches an entire community.